This week marks the 11-year anniversary of me making my living as an actor in TV and film. I spent many years before that struggling. I had a full-time job working at a law firm while I toiled away on weekends and evenings doing short films, student films, and super low-budget feature films that I hope none of you ever watch. The journey wasn't easy, but it was definitely worth it. In this video, I detail how I made the transition from struggling actor to working actor. I hope it offers some guidance for all of you as you work towards your dreams of acting in TV shows and major films. I studied theater in college, and my professors were well-meaning, and they did a great job at teaching me the craft of acting on stage. But like so many college programs, they taught me nothing about the business of acting, how to turn my love of the craft of acting into a career that I could actually make a living at. After I graduated from college, I was lost. I had no idea what steps to take to actually turn my craving for being an actor into a job, into a career, into a vocation that would pay my bills. So, like a lot of lost souls, I went to law school. While I was in law school, they allowed me to take a certain number of credits every year in other departments. And I did mine in the grad program at acting. And let's just say I didn't do a great job. I remember my last week in the program before I was going to graduate, one of my acting professors told me that I should stick to the law because the acting thing wasn't for me. Luckily, I ignored her, and you'll see a recurring theme in my story where I was often told, you should probably quit this. This is crazy. This doesn't make any sense. Thankfully, I was either too stupid, too stubborn to listen to these people, and I just kept going. After law school, I moved to LA, and I did everything wrong. I listened to other actors who had the exact same experience as me, which was zero. I took their advice. They were literally as ill-informed and dumb as I was, but I, like an idiot, followed right along behind them, doing the same stupid things that they were doing in their careers, which got them nowhere. I took a lot of acting classes with acting teachers who had never booked a professional acting job in their life. You know, there's a lot of people who go to LA, pursue acting, fail at it, and so they become acting teachers. And they teach students to do the same things that cause them to fail in their pursuit of acting. So I'd raise my hand in class and I'd ask these acting teachers, how do I book a professional acting job? And they'd always give me the same advice. Get so good, they can't ignore you. Now, I was a brand new actor. I knew nothing about the acting world, and I wasn't the smartest guy in the room. But I was smart enough to know that was some really stupid advice, because it didn't work for the teacher. They weren't out there acting professional projects, they were teaching classes. And I knew lots of actors who were amazing in acting class who were waiting tables. And I'd watch TV, and I'd see a lot of mediocre actors working as series regulars. One of the big issues is I focused exclusively on learning my craft, but I spent no time on learning my business. I felt like Moses wandering in the wilderness. Now, I was working a full-time job while I was doing short films and student films, like I mentioned before, really terrible low-budget feature films. And I just couldn't figure out how to book TV shows and major films. And I started to believe that working at that level was for other actors. And I'll put things in perspective for you. In my first 3 years of living in LA, I took a lot of acting classes. I met a lot of acting students. I didn't meet a single student who had ever booked a role in a TV show or a major film that I could go to the theater and watch them on the screen. So I told myself I only wanted to do artistic, independent films. I was lying. Worst of all, I was lying to myself. The reason is because I did not think I was good enough. Here's the big problem. I'd only get a handful of auditions every year. And when I got those auditions, I'd do one of two things. I would either go in there and overact like crazy because I thought there had to be something special to make me stand out from the crowd, and overacting would do that. Or I would get so nervous and so scared that I just couldn't even perform like a real human being. I did this year after year after year. Now, I got no external validation that I was someone who had a future as a TV and film actor. However, I just kept going. I didn't quit. Just like I had ignored that acting teacher years earlier, who told me I should quit acting, I ignored the fact that I wasn't booking any professional jobs. Why? Because I loved acting. Even if I was doing it on a set of a short film or a student film, and the only pay I got was a sub sandwich that I didn't even get to choose the toppings on the thing. I loved it. That love of acting kept me going. Now, eventually, I found mentors and teachers who were successful working actors, casting directors, producers, and directors. They taught me the right mindset. They taught me how to treat acting like a business. They taught me to be real and compelling in my auditions, and that's how I would stand out, not by overacting. They guided me in figuring out my brand as an actor. And all that came together and allowed me to book my first feature film that I was proud of. I played John Wilkes Booth as he was planning his assassination of President Lincoln. Now, a funny side story is years later, I booked an Apple TV series called Manhunt, playing Boston Corbett, the man who hunted down and killed John Wilkes Booth. And it was kind of cool because it was a full circle for me that I had that connection of Booth from my very first professional job, and I kind of revisited that world much, much later. That low budget feature didn't pay a lot, but it did pay me enough to quit my day job. A month later, I booked an ABC series called Secrets and Lies, playing T-shirt guy. I think I had 5 lines in this thing, but it was a lot of fun. Then, a few weeks later, I booked 1 line in a movie called The Birth of a Nation. Then I booked a film called Free State of Jones, and I had this powerful scene working opposite Mahershala Ali. And I thought, this is my big break, and I was so excited. It was only 1 scene in the movie, but it was a really juicy scene. And the movie came out, and the scene got cut. I always jokingly tell my students and other actors, you're not a real actor till your scenes get cut. Next, I booked a drama called My Father Died, working opposite John Snyder. And as a kid, I had loved The Dukes of Hazzard. So getting the chance to work with John was really, for me, a dream come true. And I gotta say, my mom was never very impressed by big movie stars, but the only actor I've ever worked with where she wanted me to get a picture with him was John Schneider. And he was a really, really nice guy. But that role was a nice, big supporting role in this movie, but the movie was low budget. It did premiere at South by Southwest and got a lot of great buzz. And that led me to booking American Made, working opposite Tom Cruise. Now, originally, it was a small role that was only supposed to work for 4 days in Atlanta, but Doug Liman and Tom Cruise kept adding scenes for my character. It eventually led to me working for about a month in Atlanta, a couple weeks in New Orleans, and several more weeks in South America. Now, I'll cover the details of how my role grew so much in another video, but the point here is that it took me 9 months from booking that low-budget feature playing John Wilkes Booth, so I was working opposite Tom Cruise in a major supporting role all over the world. This week, 11 years ago, I officially became a full-time working actor, making my living doing TV shows and films, and I've never looked back. I've been fortunate to work on numerous TV shows and in major films, opposite some of the biggest movie stars in the world. I've been directed by some of the top directors like Ron Howard, Steven Soderbergh, Doug Liman, and it all started with that one booking in a lower budget feature film. Here's the moral of my story. Number 1, you gotta love acting. Not being famous, you gotta love acting. Because when things get tough, when things get rough and hard, and I can promise you they will, it's your love of acting that will carry you through. Now, I'll tell you a funny story. Years ago, I had a little niece who came to me and she said, Uncle Mark, I want to be an actor. And I said, wow, great, okay, cool. And I hand her a small little scene. I said, memorize this, and we'll go and we'll practice, and I'll put you on camera. And she looks at the sheet of paper and she's like, what are you talking about? I don't want to memorize anything. I said, honey, what are you talking about? Like, if you want to be an actor, you got to learn how to act. She says, no, Uncle Mark, you don't understand. I want to have someone do my hair and put my makeup on. I want to dress in a beautiful dress and walk down the red carpet and have people take my pictures. She wants to be famous. She doesn't love acting, at least not yet. Number 2, you got to develop a powerful winning mindset. All the acting classes in the world won't help you if you're consumed with self-doubt and a feeling of being unworthy. I dealt with those issues for a very long time, and I often tell people now, if I could go back in time and start over, my first year in LA pursuing acting, I would have spent it exclusively focused on building a strong, powerful, positive winning mindset. Number 3, Learn from people who are actually successful at acting. Here's the thing. Sometimes I do a little plumbing on my house if a little pipe breaks. But that does not qualify me to teach other people how to become successful plumbers. Why? Because I've never been a professional plumber. I have no idea of the nuances and business strategies that one garners from actually working as a plumber. I also don't know how to really do it very well. What a plumber can do in an hour would take me 20 hours. It's the same thing with acting. Learn from people who are actually booking acting jobs. Number 4, learn the craft and then learn the business. Again, I spent so much time focused on the craft of acting, learning how to act. But I didn't learn how to build my business. It's like this. If someone were to say, I want to be a chef with a series of restaurants all over the country, and they then go to culinary school and they learn how to make a souffle, and then they go to a different culinary school and learn a different way to make a souffle, and then another culinary school and learn, again, a different way to make a souffle. Well, they know how to make a souffle. Here's what they don't know. How to find the right property for business, how to hire staff, how to manage the staff, how to order materials, all the things that go into actually running a restaurant. So, you have to know how to make the souffle, but once you learn how to make it, then focus on selling the souffle at your restaurant. To learn the craft of acting, but then learn the business of acting so you can turn your craft into a career. Number 5, never give up. Even when there is absolutely zero proof that you will ever succeed as an actor, just don't give up. I had so many friends that I met in LA when I first started, who are now working middle management at some company. They just gave up and they didn't have to. I'm living proof that if you have the desire and are willing to learn how to do it, you can succeed as an actor. Now, hopefully it doesn't take you as long as it did for me to figure out the right steps. But even if it does, I can promise you the journey's worth it. If you feel stuck and don't know what steps to take to move forward in your career, you can schedule a career counseling session with me at workingactorslab.com. Stay positive, work hard. I look forward to seeing all of you on set.